Hello, it's Professor Reboot or Professora Rey-NCR today, and I'm here to give you a lesson in simple Spanish conjugation of regular verbs. When we learn Spanish, just like when we learn English, we learn our action words. That's words that are verbs that they are things that nouns perform or do or demonstrate, something that you take action with. When we learn our verbs, we tend to learn them in a basic format. And in Spanish, we learn them in the infinitive format. For example, in English, if I wanted to learn the word to be, that is the infinitive, to, meaning that it's happening infinitely, this state of being. And when I conjugate it for a pronoun, I might say I am, for present tense, I am, or you are, if I'm talking about you. And these are two separate words each time in English. Now, in Spanish, it's a little bit different. The word for to be, at least when we're talking about feelings, because Spanish has two ways to say to be. But if we're talking about feelings, as I'm sure many of you have heard, ¿Cómo estás?, as in how are you, that is referring to your state of being in the moment. And so you would use this form, estar, for to be. This is an irregular verb, though, so it's a little different than the verbs I'm going to teach you today. And when you go to say I am, instead of taking this one word and making it into two words like we would in English, like we would say to be becomes I am, we take estar and we make it estoy for I am. And estás for you are if I'm talking to friends or people that I know or children or really tú, because there are also two different ways to say you in Spanish depending on who you're talking to. So we're going to talk about present tense regular verbs today and how we conjugate those verbs based on the last two letters of the word. And we're going to use some really common words that you might hear or might learn. So the first one we're going to start with is hablar. Which means to talk. To talk. And you can generally tell a verb is an infinitive, that the first time you see an action word, you can tell that it's in its infinitive format if it ends with the letter R. Generally, it's those last two letters that you're going to care about, but sometimes it will be ER and sometimes it will be IR. In this case, this is AR. And the way that we conjugate regular verbs, regular means verbs that follow the same pattern every time. The way that we conjugate regular verbs will be the same for every single pronoun that we use throughout. So to talk, hablar, that AR at the end tells us it's the infinitive form. And everything we do, I want you to imagine that you have a pair of scissors and you are snip, 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 snipping those last two letters off what we call the stem of the word in order to create the next word when you conjugate for the pronoun. So conjugation is when we take a verb or an action word and we make it fit whatever pronoun is doing the action. So we change a verb based on who or what is doing the action, like I am or you are in our English example. So again, hablar means to talk. And when we say hablar, like me gusta hablar, I am saying I like to talk. To talk. Me gusta hablar. To talk. That AR there is the to part. Now, if I want to say I talk, I chop off the AR. So let me actually start by writing it again here. Hablar. I'm going to chop off that stem, the AR, because it's always chopping off the last two letters. And I'm going to replace it with O. The word for I in Spanish is yo. Yo means I. Yo. Yo hablo. Hablo means I talk. I talk, present tense. However, I actually don't need the yo. I can just say hablo español. I do not need to say yo hablo español because as soon as I change hablar to hablo, I have told you who or what is doing the action. That O at the end of the word is telling you yo is doing the action. I am doing the action. So this means I talk. Now let's try it again with a different pronoun. Remember I said there are two different ways to say you in Spanish. The first way we'll learn is tú. Tú is you when you're talking to a friend, someone you know very well, a family member, or a small child. The other way we say you is when we are talking to someone we do not know, an adult, a stranger, or someone who we have to show respect to, like a police officer or a judge or a person in the military. So tú is the most common because more often than not you'll be speaking to people you know, but if you encounter a stranger on the street, I will also teach you the way to say, to conjugate verbs for that person. But right now, tú is what we want to conjugate for, tú. So I am now talking to you. You are going to be the one who does the talking. So remember, we always start with the infinitive form, hablar. And we're going to cut off that tail, hablas. And we're going to add a S. So we're adding that A back, but it's important that you still cut off those last two letters because later you're going to see that if you don't cut off the last two letters, you might start to confuse yourself. Even though it looks like I'm really only cutting off one letter and changing it, it's really two, and that'll become clear hopefully later. It may have become clear a moment ago when we did hablo, I talk, because I changed both of those letters, AR to an O, to make yo. But now I'm changing AR to AS. And now hablas means you talk. If I'm asking a question, it also means talk you or do you talk. So if I were to say, for instance, question mark, because in Spanish we put question marks upside down at the beginning of a question, hablas español, and then we put a question mark at the end. I'm saying, do you talk Spanish? You talk. So it can go both ways, like ¿Cómo estás? Means how are you? And estás bien means you are good. So hablas means both you are and, or both means both you talk and talk you, depending on which way you're speaking the sentence. And I hope I'm not overcomplicating things here. But my point being that the AS at the end tells you that who or what is doing the action is tú, and it's a present tense form, so it is you are. You are. And you are as in you, my friend, hablas español. You, my friend, talk Spanish or speak Spanish. So let's do hablar again. But this time we're going to talk about that formal you that I was saying. Now, whether you are saying usted, that's the formal you. Let me get rid of that little accent. That's the formal you. So if I'm talking to a teacher or a principal or a judge or someone I just don't know, I would use the usted format. Whether I am saying usted or Elle, notice there is a little accent above the E, Elle for he, or ella, and I am pronouncing that with the Mexican or Central American, Latina pronunciation of the double L is a y sound. There are places in the world where that would be a j sound or a sh sound, but here I am saying a y because I am in America where we have more common practice of encountering folks who would pronounce that double L as a ya. If you see two L's though, it is not la 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 la. It is ya, ja, sha. There are variations of that. So it could be a ja, a sha, a ya. But in this case, I will say a ya. So we have you if I'm talking to a big important person, you. We have he, we have she. There is also a gender nonspecific, a yay. I'm going to put it up here just so you know it exists. A yay is the gender nonspecific. This is less common in Spanish-speaking culture, but it's still important to know, a yay. So all of these singular methods, usted, you, like a stranger that I do not know well, Elle, he, ella, she, if I want to change hablar to fit any of these, I just chop off that AR and I replace it with just the A, just that vowel A. So usted habla, you talk. Él habla, he talks. Ella habla, she talks. Ella habla, they talk, they singular, meaning the non-binary, gender-neutral they. So singular forms, we have hablo, I talk, hablas, you talk if I'm referring to a friend, and habla, usted habla, you talk if I'm talking to a stranger. Él habla, he talks. Ella habla, she talks. Ella habla, they talk singular. Okay, so that's our singular conjugations for an AR verb. Let's talk about our plural conjugations for an AR verb. Now, in English, when I say you are, I could mean you, the one person who's watching this video right now, or you, if I happen to be looking at an entire classroom full of students right now, and there's 15 of you watching me right now, all of you in English, I don't say that differently. I don't say you or use. But in Spanish, I do. I have a single you, tú, or a single you for strangers, usted, but I also have a plural you if I'm talking to a group of you. And if it's a group of people I am familiar with, it is vosotros. And it's a group of people I am unfamiliar with, it is ustedes, usted, es at the end. And I will go over those in just a moment. But my point is that there is a plural version or a multiple version for everything we talked about. So if hablo is I talk, well, the plural of I would be me and someone else, or we, right? You and I, she and I, Jane and I, Jack and I, that is we. And so that word in Spanish is nosotros. Nosotros. And nosotros just means we. And to make nosotros, I'm going to chop off that stem just like I did before, and I'm going to change it to A-M-O-S. Hablamos. Hablamos is we talk. We talk. Hablamos. Hablamos español, we talk Spanish. Hablamos francés, we talk French. Hablamos inglés, we talk English. Hablamos, that A-M-O-S, tells me that who or what is doing the action is nosotros. Nosotros is we. We are doing the action. I do not need to say nosotros hablamos because it's implied that A-M-O-S tells me nosotros is doing the action. So let's talk about the plural for you, for the first you. So remember we said tú is one you. One you. I'm talking to one of you. But if I'm talking to a bunch of people that I would otherwise call two, like my friends, or like a sports team, or like my students, or a room full of children, I would say not nosotros, which is we, but vosotros. Vosotros. Vosotros is like y'all. Ya-all, or you all. Y'all, my friends, y'all. And I will again erase that tail. Habla, so it's H-A-B-L. And this time I'm going to put A-I-S with an accent above the A. Hablais. Hablais. Remember, an accent also tells you where to put the emphasis on the word. So if I say hablais español, I am actually saying you all speak Spanish if I'm talking to a room full of people I know very well, or a room full of friends, family, that sort of thing, a room full of children. So that's how you conjugate tú, the plural of you. But we still have two other words that we need to cover, which is they, and then if we're talking to a room full of you, if they are important strangers or adults, usted. And those, again, are the same. So remember the singular was usted, right? So usted, one you. But it was also Elle and ella or ella? Well, this time it is ellos, no accent this time, ellos. And it is also ellas if I happen to be talking to a room full of cisgendered women, or if I'm talking to a room full of people who identify as women. Ellas would work as well if I want to be non-gender specific, because ello does technically mean they with a masculine accent on that. So I could also say ellas. Again, that is relatively new to Spanish-speaking culture, but it's also somewhat new to American English. I would say that the Oxford English Dictionary actually ruled on the singular you for English back in 1979. So the singular you of the singular they rather is not new. We say it is because gender non-binary seems like a new concept, but it actually isn't. It's been approved as an English grammatical construct since 1979. So Spanish is just catching up. But usted, ellos, ellas, these are all different ways that we might conjugate hablar for a multiple group of people. And usted, if I want to make more than one usted, it would be usted es. So now it is plus one of you, greater than one you. So ustedes means a whole bunch of you if I'm talking to my colleagues, my colegas, my teachers, if I'm talking to adults or strangers or people that I do not know well, and there's a room full of them, it would be ustedes. Ellos, they, so they. Ellas, they, if I believe that they are primarily cisgendered feminine, or if they identify as girls. Ellas, if I'm not sure and I want to use gender neutral. But they and you, two different words, right? They actually conjugate, or translate rather, to a different word entirely. Ustedes, you are. Ellos, they are. You are, they are. The way that I translate for both of these is chop off the stem again. En, hablan. So ustedes hablan español, you all speak Spanish. Ellos hablan español, they all speak Spanish. Ellas hablan español, they speak Spanish. Ellas hablan español, they speak Spanish. So again, we chop off that AR, we make it an AN, and we have the conjugation for they. I actually only need to say ustedes or ellos if the listener or reader might not realize I'm talking to they or you. So that's the only time I would need to say the pronoun, because again, that an, it tells me who or what is doing that action. So that's AR verbs. ER and IR verbs are a little different, so let's cover those next. So we covered hablar, a very common word. Let's cover comer. Comer, one of the favorites in my middle school Spanish classroom, because it means, are you ready? To eat. I'm sure you can imagine growing children love to learn comer as a Spanish word, and it is a regular verb, meaning it's going to follow the same patterns that we're going to learn. However, the thing you have to remember about regular verbs is that AR, ER, and IR, those endings of the, again, infinitive format, the R tells you it's infinitive, they all have a slightly different conjugation with a few exceptions. When I am making yo, or I eat, present tense, it's always O. So I'm going to chop off, so let me write it out, comer, got that ER, to make I eat, chop off the ER, como pizza, como tacos, como quesadilla, como los dulces, como tarta, como galletas. I eat cookies, I eat cake, I eat all kinds of things. So como is I eat. And remember, I don't need to say yo, I don't need to say I, because as soon as I say como, I am telling you who's doing the eating. Just be wary. Como also means like, as in two things that are compared to each other, like my hair is like my child's hair. We have the same hair color, como. It can also mean, with an accent, como, as in how, como estás, how are you? But without the accent and with the context of food attached to it, it means I eat. So that's I. Notice that that's the same as it was with an AR verb. Hablar becomes hablo, hablo, como. They both end with O, and it means I. But let's take that ER verb again, and let's make, again, the conjugation for to. And notice how I'm doing the same order? If you always do the same order, you will have an easier time remembering your verb charts. So to, again, you, when I'm talking to a friend. In this case, I chop off the last two letters for comer, and I replace it with es, and that means you eat. Notice anything familiar? I chopped off the last two letters, and I replaced the E vowel and an S. Comes means you eat. Comes tacos, comes tartas. You eat cake, you eat tacos. You eat, my friend. Comes. That S at the end is a dead giveaway that the verb that you are referring to is very likely a you verb, unless there are some other letters before it. But if there's only a vowel and an S, probably to is doing the action. But let's carry on. So we covered to. Let's put our comer back, our to eat back. And let's talk again about the three singulars that we can do together, or four technically. We have usted, which is what again? That's right, the formal you, the stranger, the adult, the room full of teachers, singular teacher, the singular principal, you, singular. There is Elle, he, Elle, he. Notice the accent above the E. Ella, she. Ella, singular they. And all of them get conjugated the same way. Chop off the ER, replace it with a, bet you can guess, E. Come, come. So now it is usted come, you eat, if I'm talking to a stranger. Él come, he eats. Ella come, she eats. Ella come, they eats, if I'm talking about a singular they. Come covers all of these singular conjugations. Just like habla was that singular vowel at the end, come is the same singular vowel at the end. So singulars, so far, we're seeing some commonality. Now let's see what happens when we make it plurals. Next would be the plural for I, nosotros, I, we, right? So if I am with somebody else, I am a nosotros or a we. Well, chop off the ER for an ER verb. You guessed it. EMOS, comemos. Comemos tacos, comemos tartas. We eat tacos, we eat cakes. Comemos galletas, we eat cookies. All of those work for the plural we, for we. Now let's take comer, and you remember the plural for tu? If I'm talking to a room full of children or people I know? Vosotros. Vosotros. More than one you if the you is two. More than one you if the you is two is vosotros. And that, bet you can guess, coméis. Coméis. Coméis tacos. You all eat tacos. Coméis tartas. You all eat cake. Coméis galletas. You all eat cookies. So vosotros two, if I'm talking to a room full of people, again, there's an accent above the E and ends with an IS. Just like habláis, Habla with an accent, IS is vosotros for talk. Coméis, COME with an accent, IS is vosotros for eat. Now, last one, comer. If we are conjugating it for ustedes, which is what again? That's right, more than one stranger, more than one adult, more than one important person. Ustedes or ellos, also ellas, ellas, they or you all. So you or they. Ellos, ellas, ellas, all the same, or ustedes. Again, chop off the ER. E-N, ta-da, N, comen, just like hablan is they talk, comen is they eat, or ustedes comen tartas, You all eat cake. Ellos comen galletas. They eat cookies. Comen, that N at the end, again, another sign that a regular verb, it's a they or a you all if you're talking to important ustedes, strangers, adults, people that you don't know well. So that's it for ER verbs. Remember, AR, ER, and IR verbs. Now, IR verbs are where it's going to get you if you try to follow the pattern that I've shown you all along, because there's a few exceptions to IR verbs. But let's go with vivir, which is to live. Vivir, to live. And vivir, to live, same concept. Those last two letters tell me it is the to, it's the infinitive form. So me gusta vivir, I like to live. Me gusta comer, I like to eat. Me gusta hablar, I like to talk. That to is what tells you that it's going to end with the letter R. So vivir is an IR verb. What do you think I do for yo? Yo, which is I. I live. If I want to make this I live, that's right. I chop off the IR. I put an O there, and it is I live. Vivo. Vivo aquí. I live here. Vivo está a mi casa. Vivo a mi casa. Vivo, I live at my house. I live in my house. I live here. All of those things are I live. Let's conjugate for what is next? To. That's right, to. The singular you. So for you, don't follow the pattern now. Now it's time to break your brain a little. For you live, it's actually ES. Remember how I told you that you need to chop off the last two letters, even though some of your brains might be going, why, when I'm just putting the A back? This is why. Because when you get to IR verbs, sometimes you change the letter. So it is vives. Vives aquí. You live here. Vives allá. You live there. Vives. You live. Changes it to an E. So that is for two. You live. That's one U. Now, same deal for, again, that usted, singular you that I don't know. Elle, he. Elle, singular they. Ella, she, he, they, she, usted, singular they. All of these get conjugated the same way, just like the other ones. I chop off the IR, and what do you think I put there? Not an I, it's an E. You're right, it's an E. E. So usted vive, you live. Elle vive, they live if I'm talking about somebody singular. Elle vive, he lives. Ella vive, she lives. So we've got our singular conjugations for IR verbs. Let's do our multiples. So IR, vivir, to live. The plural of I would be we or nosotros. We live. Ready to break your brain again. Chop off the IR. I-M-O-S. Vivimos. Vivimos aquí. We live here. Vivimos aquí. We live here. So I-M-O-S. So one thing you can remember when it's a we conjugation, whether it's AR, ER, or IR, if it ends in MOS, we are doing the action, whether it is an AR, ER, or IR verb. Cocinamos, we cook. Bebemos, we drink. Or, I can't think of an IR verb other than vivir, but vivimos, we live. So we, MOS, let's do our plural for tú, which is again vosotros. I'm talking to a room full of people I would refer to as my friends. So there's multiple you. I'm saying, hi, you all my friends. In this case, again, break your brain. Not going to follow the pattern you've learned so far. This time I chop off the IR and I replace it with an I accent. Es vivís. Vivís aquí. Vosotros vivís aquí. You all live here. Vivís. No extra vowel this time, just the I with an accent, S. Vivís for vosotros. And then last we have vivir for ustedes, which is you all my strangers, you all people I don't know well, you all adults, and ellos or ellas or ellas. The plural, notice that the S at the end is what makes it plural. Ellas is they. So whether it is you, plural, or they, it is in this case not an I, but an E. Chop off the IR, replace it with an E, viven. So if you have an IR or an ER verb, most of the time your conjugations will be E. Unless you're talking about I, vosotros, or nosotros. When you're talking about he, she, usted, ustedes, or ellos, ellas, ellas, it's going to be an E. But generally speaking, I want you to notice something. So for I live, I talk, and I eat. Oh. Chop off the last two letters. I live, I talk, I eat. All the same. Let's see how that compares when we line it up. Vives, hablas, comes. Tú. You live, you talk, you eat. Comes, hablas, vives. Tú, you live, you talk, you eat. Notice how they all end with an S? Now, let's do, oops, I dropped off the L there. Let's do usted, elle, ella, ella. We have vive, habla, come. Usted vive, you live. Elle vive, he lives. Usted habla, you live. Ella habla, she lives. Usted come, you eat. Usted, or rather, ella come, they singular eat. Notice it just ends with a vowel, just the vowel. Noticing a pattern yet? And what about that we conjugation? Nosotros, vivimos, hablamos, comemos. Nosotros vivimos, we live. Nosotros hablamos, we talk. Nosotros comemos, we eat. But it's implied. Vivimos, we live. Hablamos, we talk. Comemos, we eat. Notice that pattern? MOS, MOS, MOS. All the same. Okay, what happens when we do it for vosotros, which remember is the plural of tú, when I'm talking to a room full of people I know. In this case, it is oops, my marker's out. For vivir, it is vivis, hablais, or comeis. Vivis, you all live. Hablais, you all talk. Comeis, you all eat, if you're my friends. And then for ustedes or ellos, ellas, ellas, which is they or you if I'm talking to a room full of strangers, again, it is viven, hablan, comen. Notice the commonality? N. Ustedes viven, you all live. Ellos viven, they live. Viven, they live, you live. Hablan, ustedes hablan, they talk, you talk. Ellos hablan, they talk. Hablan, they talk. Ustedes hablan, you talk. Ustedes comen, you eat. Ellos comen, they eat. Comen, they eat. Comen, ustedes comen, you eat. The N is what tells you it's more than one. Ustedes or they. So the conjugations for regular verbs follow that pattern for present tense. So if you're changing vivir, to live, hablar, to talk, comer, to eat, into any of the different parts of speech we just discussed, chop off the last two letters and replace it with what I told you, and you will have the pronoun wrapped up into the verb correctly in Spanish. That is your present tense conjugation lesson. Good luck conjugating.